What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new early Netflix movie review, and today we'll be discussing the new action thriller that comes to Netflix on Friday, September 10th, and that is Kate, which I got the opportunity to check out early, courtesy of Netflix, and I'm really excited to let you all know if this action film is worth checking out, all in this spoiler-free review. But before we break it all down, do me a favor and check me out on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert from when I drop new content. If you all enjoyed this spoiler-free review of Kate, well, make sure to like and share this review. It really helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate the support. And in those comments, let's talk about this film, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know if you were excited for it, but more importantly, once you've seen it, what'd you think about it? Let's talk about the story, the characters, of course, the action. What was your favorite action moment in the film? But let's also talk about the other side of the spectrum. Were you disappointed? Was it just another stereotypical action film on Netflix that left you kind of wanting more from the film? Let's talk about it in the comments. So for me personally, I went into Kate pretty cold. I didn't watch the trailer. I was sold on the poster that came out a couple weeks ago. Seeing Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who I am such a big fan of. I don't think she's underappreciated, but I think she's definitely underrated as an actress. Seeing her first pop up for the first time for me in Final Destination 3, and obviously seeing her in other horror films, action films, TV shows like Fargo, such a big fan of her. So I was like, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I don't need to see anymore. I can't wait to see this film. And then the ice on the cake was seeing Woody Harrelson on the poster. It's like, come on, when does this film come out? And here we are discussing it, starting off with my positives, and I got to go right back to what sold me in this film. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who plays Kate. Now, not giving too much away about the synopsis, because again, I went to a cold, and I want you all to kind of experience it for the first time without giving too much away of the plot. But basically, the story follows Kate, who's an assassin who gets poisoned. And with this poison in her system, she only has 24 hours to live. So obviously, she's on this hunt to find the person that poisoned her. And in her manhunt of getting revenge, she comes across this young girl by the name of Ani, who happens to be tied to one of her hits that she did a couple months ago prior to this main story. So that's kind of the basic plot of the film, but let's focus on Kate here, who Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who I mentioned I'm a fan of her work, and this film to me gave me something that I wanted in a film she came out with a couple years ago, which is Birds of Prey, which obviously Margot Robbie as, Harley Quinn is great, and we're going to get more of her in the future. Black Canary and Jodie Smollett's going to have her own independent film on HBO Max in the coming years, but a character that I want to get more from was Huntress, and I think I got that from this film because this is like an origin story for Huntress. I thought, and this sucks that Netflix doesn't have like behind the scenes of a lot of their movies or like featurettes, but I felt, and I feel pretty confident in this number, I feel like Mary did probably 85% of her stunts. Like, she sold me on being this assassin. Like, she was very believable in the role. Like, there's a particular scene very early on in the movie where she's doing hand-to-hand combat. She has her gun, she has her knife, she has some fingers cutting all over the place. I'm like, yo, she is really selling me on the action, and that's really kind of the narrative throughout the film. She was so believable, this character. Now, I do feel like, personally, the script and the character development was lacking, but not so from Mary parts, just from the script perspective. But I thought that she elevated this character that was kind of bland, if I'm being honest, because the story really doesn't elaborate or really develop her as a character. But I thought that Mary kind of really brought the characteristics out of this character, whether it be the way she looks, from the way she carries herself, because again, she has poison in her system, and as the film goes on, she's getting weaker and weaker, and you can kind of see what it's doing to her body, but at the same time, you can see in her eyes, you can see in her emotions what she's bringing to the table. So I thought Mary, as I figured that she was going to kill it and be a great lead kick-ass actress, she really destroys this role and really does a great job in the role. But also too, going to other characters, Woody Harrelson was fine. I was a little bit disappointed by the character, and I'll leave that to my criticisms, but he was fine in the role. But the young girl that plays Ani, I have some negatives, but I'm going to focus on the positives here. I thought that knowing where this character is, and I won't give too much away about Ani, but when you see the film, you kind of understand, like, at first she was kind of annoying, I'm not going to lie, but then I thought to myself, the more and more I was watching it, she's a little girl who has lost a lot in her life. She's probably grown up in the YouTube, TikTok era, so she kind of has that teenageisms of just kind of being annoying in the way she carries herself. But as the film goes on, you can kind of see the pain that she's gone through and how that kind of parallels to the story that Kate went through as a young girl. So I kind of like their dynamic. Again, I'll leave my criticism a little bit later, but I thought for the most part, Ani kind of sold me as the film went on. But before I go into my negatives, I can't go without mentioning the action. The action's pretty dope in this film, guys. Now, it's not, the best action of all time, but I was really, again, I was sold on the kind of the realism that Kate was in this role in regards to Mary Elizabeth Winstead doing her own stunts, but just seeing how each action set piece was a little bit different from the previous one. My favorite, to not give too much away, takes place in this kind of I think it was called like a lizard bar or something like that. It was one of the first like main action set pieces that really kind of kicks off the film for me, because the first half wasn't all that interesting, but that particular fight sequence was one of my favorites of the entire film. Just seeing her do hand-to-hand combat, her using her weapons, her just being kind of smart on her feet and just really being a badass. But then from there, we go from hand-to-hand combat to like a gunfight, gun-fu fight, to a more one-on-one fight that took place in the kitchen, which was really nice. And then the last kind of big set piece was like a gunfight. But I thought that each action set piece was unique from the previous one, which I really appreciate from being a big action fan. So I thought the action really kind of delivered in that department. So transitioning into my criticisms, I gotta say, and I mentioned a little bit in regards to the script, I think the script is not all that original, but even taking out originality, because a lot of action films really follow the same plots. Like a lot of action films in the last decade feel like they're just like John Wick isms, Raid isms, and it feel like every action film is picking pieces off of like, we got to have cool action set piece, shoot someone in the head, it has to be very John Wick like, but neither here nor there, minus that kind of familiarity. The actual plot of the film's kind of convoluted, because the film's trying to evoke this emotion from its audience from an emotional standpoint between our two characters, Ani and Kate, and how they relate to each other. But more particularly with the Ani plot that involves her family and some betrayal and having this control over this certain clan, that plot to me really was underdeveloped, and really kind of shows how underdeveloped it is as we get into the second and third act of the film, and we kind of meet another aspect of the character of betrayal, or I should say the story of betrayal. I thought that was really underwhelming, but also I praise the action, and I can't go without mentioning, because the director of this film is very known for working in visual effects and done some other action films like Pirates of the Caribbean. There's a car chase in this film that takes place like within the first 5 minutes that was just like completely CGI and looked completely ridiculous compared to the rest of the action in the film. So that stood out like a sore thumb. But also going back into the film, the first half of the movie is kind of boring. I'm not going to lie. Like the first 25 minutes, it took like 20, like to the 30-minute mark is when the film kind of picks up its personality and picks up in the action set pieces, but it really kind of starts off really slow. And also, this kind of goes back to some of my positives. I did enjoy how the film takes place in Tokyo, and I feel like a lot of the culture was involved in the script, whether it be the music industry down there, the clothing, the costuming, all this stuff. I felt like that was pretty cool to kind of get that side of action that we really don't see in a lot of these blockbuster films. But going back to my criticisms, going back into Ani, and again, I know she was a teenager and she had her points that I kind of felt her, but I felt like it was some inconsistencies within that character. Without giving too much away, there's something that she has, like some tragedy. She has some PTSD to something that happened to her in the past. And as the film goes on, all of that plot and all that character development just kind of went out of the door. And she does some things in this film where it's just like, okay, Ani, you look up to Kate because you look at her as a badass, as a female lead, that you see something in you. She reminds you of her mother, but then as the film goes on, she has this type of vengeance towards Kate, and then she doesn't. It was very kind of inconsistent, and that's something that really kind of boils down to my criticisms. This film has a lot of inconsistencies in regards to characteristics, even Kate herself. Feeling bad for Ani, then not feeling bad for Ani, wanting to leave Ani, then want to save Ani. It was just like a lot of inconsistencies for me in regards to the script. But there's some other things that I really want to touch on, but it's going to dive deeper into spoilers. So before I give you all my overall thoughts and my score for the film, if you haven't already, make sure to like, share, comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Overall, I got to say, Kate is your stereotypical type of action film, but I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead really did carry the film for me personally. It does feel like Gunpowder Milkshake, but has its own kind of spin to it, and I did appreciate kind of the relationship that we get with some of our characters, even though that I wish that we would have gotten a little bit more development from all of our characters. But at the end of the day, I was pretty impressed by some of the action set pieces. I was kind of popping in and out of the main narrative, but at the end of the day, I find more positives and negatives, so I'm going to give Kate a solid 3 out of 5. And I would say, hey, with the next coming weeks, there's not a ton of content to check out in regards to movies and shows. So I would say if you have nothing else to do on this coming Friday, give Kate a shot and let me know what you all thought of it, positively, negatively, your favorite action moment, your favorite character moment, and let's talk about this film in the comments below. Thank you all for watching this review. If you stuck around to this point, I appreciate you. If you haven't already, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And make sure you hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss any of my other future content. Hope you all are staying safe. Hope you enjoyed this review, and we'll see you on the next one.